tada bhagavantau abhishtatadau labha labdhavalokairyayatur archidau gandamadhanam evam suraganishtada bhagavantau abhishtatadau labdhavalokairyayatur archidau gandamadhanam evam suraganishtada bhagavantau abhishtadau labdha labdhavalokiryayatur archidau gandamadhanam. Synonyms: evam, thus, suraganai, by the demigods, tada, O Vidura, bhagavantau, the supreme personality of Godhead, abhishtau, having been praised, labdha, having obtained, avalokahai, the glance of mercy, yayatuha, departed, archidau, having been worshipped, gandamadhanam, to the Gandamadhana hill. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maitreya said, O Vidura, thus the demigods worshipped with praise the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing as the sage Nara Narayana. The Lord glanced upon them with mercy and then departed for Gandamadhana hill. The next verse. Tvayumau vai bhagavado hareramshau ihagadau bharavyayaya cha bhuvaha krishnau yadu kurudvahu. Synonyms: tau, both, imau, these, why, certainly, bhagavadaha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hare, of Hari, amshau, part and parcel, expansion, iha, here, in this universe, agada, has appeared, bhara vyayaya, for mitigation of the burden, cha, and bhuvaha, of the world, krishna, of the two Krishnas, Krishna and Arjuna, yadu kuru udvahu, who are the best of the Yadu and Kuru dynasties, respectively. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: that Naranarayana Rishi, who is a partial expansion of Krishna, has now appeared in the dynasties of Yadu and Kuru in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna, respectively, to mitigate the burden of the world. Purport. Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Nara is a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Godhead, Narayana. Thus, the energy and the energetic together are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maitreya informed Vidura and Nara. The portion of Narayana had appeared in the family of the Kurus, and that Narayana, the plenary expansion of Krishna, had come as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with the purpose of delivering suffering humanity from the pangs of material burdens. In other words, Narayana Rishi was now present in the world in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stabidam Yena Bhudale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadadhi Supadandigam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Udapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunadhanidam Dam Sajivam Sadhvaidam Savadudam Parijana Sahidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishaganidamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhano Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarupasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Padidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhudale, Srimade Lokanath Swami Dinamine, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhudale, Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dinamine, Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Thank you again, dear devotees, for this very auspicious Bhagavatam class. So this chapter is titled as Genealogical Table of the Descendants of Swayambhuva Manu. It's mentioned that in this chapter, one who hears, one who knows this chapter, the genealogical order, it's mentioned that one can eradicate from his sinful reactions as well as develop the bhakti, the love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That powerful it is. The reason for that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifested in this dynasty in many, many times. So that's the greatness that we can learn from these chapters, understand the Supreme Lord manifested in various forms. We know that in the beginning, Swayambhuva Manu, 3 daughters and then 2 sons, Agudi, Devahudi, and Prasudi. So the genealogical order, the dynasties, the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu in such a way that the Lord appeared in 3 of the daughters, as descendants. Like Agudi, the Lord appeared as Yajna, and Devahudi, Lord appeared as Kardama Muni, and Prasudi, the Lord appeared as again as a grandchildren of Prasudi as the Sri Narayana Rishi. Narayana is none other than the Supreme Lord, the plenary expansions of the Supreme Lord. So that's where we are seeing these sections. So when the daughters of the Prasudi, then the Murti, and then married to um, uh, so the
married to Dharma.
Dharma, yes, Dharma. So Dharma, there are 13 daughters of Daksha. 13 that Prasudi is married to Daksha. Daksha had 16 daughters. And then out of the 16 daughters, then Daksha handed over 13 daughters to the Dharma. Dharma is also the another form, another expansion of the plenary portion of the Supreme Lord. So that we can see in the earlier sections of it. Then the daughter of the Daksha, who is Murti, and then the Dharma, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Narayana Rishi, Nara sages, as considered as mostly considered as sages, but they are none other than the Supreme Lord, the portion of the Supreme Lord appeared as their son. So in all of these traits, like the Akuti, Prasudi, and Devahudi also appeared. And also we can see that in the dynasty of Devahudi, the daughters, and even the Lord appeared as Dattatreya. So many times the Lord appeared in these dynasties. As well, not only that, all the daughters were so devoted to the Supreme Lord. That's why also the Lord appeared in their dynasties. And we can see that they are all married to the great sages, Mariji, Atri, Angiras, Pulaha, Pulastya. So these are great sages. And from them, the great sages like Kashyapa manifested, Agastya manifested. So just by hearing them and understanding all of these sages and great personalities, one can even eradicate from all these sinful reactions and attain the love for the Supreme Lord. So here in this section, so we know that, and as soon as the sages, I mean, they were the dews, and they were the twin brothers of Nara and Narayana. They appeared as the sons of the Dharma and the Murti. And then immediately everybody come to know that these are none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everybody, everywhere was so jubilant, including Brahma, including all the demigods. They were started to dance, and in the jubilation, they started to sing. The Gandharvas, the Kinnaras, they played the kettle drums, and everywhere the jubilation. They came before Narayana Rishi. And as soon as we know that they are not ordinary, they are the Supreme Lord. So they just glanced upon them. And after that, Naranarayana Rishi, then they moved to they went to the Gandhamadana hill, which is part of the Badrinath. So Badrika from Badri. So we know that where is the Badrinath. People goes there, and there is Badri Narayana is there, and also Naranarayana sages are there. So like that. So it's a very important aspects of Sri Naranarayana sages. So Naranarayana, the rishis, they were not ordinary. They were the portion, the supreme personality of Godhead. And we know that even when we chant, when we recite Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam, and whom we are addressing this Narayana, that sage Naranarayana Rishi. So Narayanam, he is none other than the Supreme Lord. So we are offering the obeisance to Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram. Naram means who is that? That again the portion of that, the Supreme Lord as a Nara, as a portion and a plenary portion of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here in this verse, today's verse, that 58 and 59, so here it is mentioned that this Maitreya, so explaining this to Vidura. So this is also another aspect of the after we know that the Krishna departed from this world and explained everything to sage Maitreya as well as Uddhava. Then Maitreya was also coming to the Badrikashram in order to meet Sri Naranarayana, Sri Naranarayana. That's the time on the way the sage Maitreya is meeting Vidura and explaining everything what Krishna was mentioned and explaining to Mahatma Vidura. So it's a beautiful, beautiful section. So in so many places, the glories and the potencies, the power of sage Sri Naranarayana is mentioned. So here it is mentioned that again, in this age of the Dwapara Yuga, the same sage Naranarayana also manifested in Krishna and Arjuna. So Narayana, the plenary expansion of Krishna, is also come as Krishna in the Dwapara Yuga, and also Arjuna is the portion of the Supreme Lord Narayana, and then appeared as Arjuna in the Kuru dynasty, in the Yadu dynasty and Kuru dynasty. So there is eternal relationship between Arjuna and Krishna. So there's no doubt into that. So also that we can see in Srimad Bhagavatam itself that later we can see that Arjuna and Krishna went to Vaikuntha with his own body. It is not possible for any ordinary living beings. So the explanation was like this. And when Arjuna was there in Dwaraka, that time there was a Brahman, and he had many, this wife was carrying, and immediately as soon as then wife delivers a child, the child disappears immediately, and then without even no time, and it disappears. And this Brahman was so upset with the king, and especially the Dwaraka where the Krishna was ruling. And then he comes to the door, the entrance of the Dwaraka, and then started to criticize the king because of the king is not ruling properly, and because of king has some sin, that's why it's affecting all the subjects, all the prajas. So every time like this. So this is happening one after another. Every time when the child take birth, and then what happens? It immediately disappears. And one time Arjuna was there, and this Brahmana was chastising and criticizing the king. That means the Krishna. Then Arjuna and Krishna knew what was happening. So Krishna didn't bother much. Then Arjuna heard this, and Arjuna couldn't tolerate that the blasphemy the Brahmana was using. And because of he was so upset that his child, as soon as the child is taking birth and disappearing, and then Arjuna came forward. Arjuna said, "You know who I am? I'm Savyasaji. I'm the Gandhivadhari. I'm able to protect you, and there is nothing in that world that I cannot protect." So this was Arjuna. Arjuna had such a power. We know that who is Arjuna. So, but acting as a human role. So here Arjuna came forward and then promised to the Brahmana that I would protect your child. So by this time, almost 9 children were disappeared. As soon as it's born, the 9 children were disappeared. So Arjuna came forward, and then Arjuna created such a shelter in a shell, like with his arrows. Even an air cannot go inside. So he created such a barricade around the Brahmana's house, and then the time appears, and that the day that the child born, and he heard the Brahmana heard the cry, and then Arjuna also heard the cry, but immediately the child disappeared and nobody could, stop it. And then Brahmana came running and with his, his blasphemy, with his upset and is using the words, and even you promised, and Arjuna promised that if I cannot protect you, then I would jump into the fire. So this was the promise Arjuna made to that Brahmana. And Brahmana came and then blaspheming and chastising Arjuna. Even you said you are the wielder and the powerful, and you could protect, but you couldn't even protect. Then what kind of people you are? Where I am living in this kingdom, and I should go away from this place, and I cannot get the shelter, I cannot get the protection, and all those things. So Arjuna was, lowered his head and couldn't say anything, and his promise was he would go into the fire and then die himself. So Arjuna was preparing this fire, pit, and then Krishna immediately came, and Krishna knew everything, and Krishna know what is happening. So Krishna is very dear to Arjuna is very dear to Krishna. Then immediately, Arjuna told everything, and Krishna knew. Then Arjuna was about to jump into the fire. Then Krishna stopped. So immediately, Krishna called his chariot. And Daruka came with his chariot. And then Krishna told Arjuna, Arjuna, please sit on this chariot. And then Krishna, then now taking Daruka was taking the chariot, and they were traveling from all these various regions of these boundaries of this material world. And in some point of time beyond the Brahmalok, that's Lokalok, there was a there's always the darkness. And then that's where the Krishna and Arjuna, then Krishna used his Sudarsana Chakra in order to see it. And then Krishna and Arjuna then was going through the chariot, and then finally entered into the Vaikunta, entered into that the supreme abode, that spiritual world, the Vaikunta. There they came before the Supreme Lord Sri Narayana. Narayana was lying down on the recliner of Ananda Shesh, and Mahalakshmi was. So as soon as Narayana saw Krishna and Arjuna, Narayana was so pleased. Narayana mentioned that I took all the children. The reason for that, I wanted to see you both. So you are there in the earthly planet. I wanted to see you both, and even Arjuna. And because of you are my part, and there is no difference between you and me. And whatever you have is mine, and whatever I have is yours. And then I just wanted to see you in this form, like this. Yes, of course, Narayana could see the lordships like that, but this is a pastime. Also had to prove that the Arjuna and part of the Lord and could enter into the Vaikuntha with that same body. So then Arjuna's promise, and Narayana mentioned that I took all the children. Then Narayana then wrote that all the children in front of Arjuna and Krishna. Then they brought back these children and gave back to the this Brahmana. So the reason I mentioned that, so Arjuna and the Krishna. So Krishna is, of course, his original personality of the Godhead. And then Narayana, they were also the portion of the Krishna, the plenary portion of the Supreme Lord. So now, when you look at these Narayana, the sages, they were so powerful. They were so such a way that nobody could say that they were not, because that's the reason that as soon as they appeared, manifested, all the sages, all the rishis, and the Brahmas even, and Lord Shiva, they were also jubilant. So there was one incident. We know that how powerful the Narayana Rishi is. So we know that the story of Markandeya. We also know that the Markanda, and in the again the dynasty of the Swayambhu Manu, the Markandeya sage is also appeared. The Bhrigu is appeared. So Markandeya Muni was very devoted to the Lord. And I will also tell that who was Markandeya. This was mentioned in the Narada Pancharatra. Markandeya, before he was a Brahman boy. And this Brahman was not so devoted to the Lord Hari. He was a demigod worshipper, and anybody worship Lord Hari, then he had a hatred for such devotees of Lord Hari. But somehow one day he had an opportunity to have the prasadam which is offered to the Supreme Lord. And this prasadam was lying down on the road. and had dust covered, but somehow they were so hungry and they took this prasadam and they had this prasadam, and because of the potency of the prasadam, and then this Brahmana and this Brahman boy was able to worship the Supreme Lord. This Brahman boy was so powerful in worship and he had such an understanding. He was worshipping the Supreme Lord. Even Naranarayana Rishi came before this Brahman boy. And Naranarayana Rishi was so pleased with this Brahman boy's worship. And Naranarayana Rishi then informed this Brahman boy that you will in next lifetime, you will take birth of the son of Mrikandu. That's where we said he became Markandeya. So then Markandeya, then again after that, this in his the son became the son of Mrikandu. He became Markandeya, and because of his potency, because of his devotion, because of his worship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has this unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, unalloyed devotion to the Supreme Lord. Because of that, the power of devotion, this Markandeya Muni could worship the Supreme Lord for 6 manus. Nobody can. 6 manus means one manu is 71 yuga cycle, and that much long, and it's completely worshipping the Supreme Lord. And again, the sage Naranayana Rishi appeared before this Markandeya. And all that sage, the Markandeya is requested, or then Sri Naranayana Rishi requested Markandeya to ask some boon, ask something from me. And initially he was hesitating, but mentioned that. And I would like to see that how you manifested into this material world that as your illusory energy. And I would like to see it. So then, so be it. Narayana, she said that, so be it, I will show you. So then, due course of time, this Markandeya was, in his hermitage and worshipping the Supreme Lord. All on a sudden, there is a huge cloud and it's created, and so much of torrents of rain and it's pouring down. And then, there's huge, and the water raised up, and the ocean came up. And all on a sudden, it was raised up like, to the heavenly planets beyond, and went again and again. It's completely everywhere there's water. Then Markandeya was swimming here and there and going here and there in this water. And then finally, after a long time, and he came to a place, a deep, an island, there was a banyan tree. And there he saw that there is the water, there was a banyan leaf. And in that banyan leaf, there is a little boy. He was actually sucking his toe in his mouth and lying down there. And Markandeya Muni just went near to this boy, and then immediately with the inhaling power of that boy, Markandeya Muni entered into the body of this little boy. He was none other than the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And there is a form that that Vilomangalam Thakur was also compiled a beautiful bhajan about that the Krishna is lying on the banyan leaf and sucking his toe. So then Markandeya Muni entered into the body of Sri Krishna, and then he could see that the entire cosmic creations, everything is within the body of the Supreme Lord. The sun and the moon, that the meteors, the sky, the ether, the fire, the air and ether, everything. Everything is within there, and it is in the body of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And then he was there for some time. Then the Krishna, the little boy, he exhaled. Immediately, Markandeya Muni came out, and then all on a sudden he saw nothing, and he was there in his hermitage, and he was doing the worship. So this was happened long time, and this was the desire of Markandeya Muni to see the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord, the Naranarayana Krishna, and then asked Naranarayana, and then what happened? Showed that everything to Markandeya Muni because of the power. And then Markandeya Muni was worshipping the Supreme Lord. And then the boon which we asked, and then then Lord Shiva came before Markandeya Muni, seeing his worship and the devotion. And then Markandeya Muni, Lord Shiva even requested to Markandeya Muni, ask a boon. Then Markandeya Muni asked that I only one desire boon I need, that all the time I should always worship that my Supreme Lord with unflinching, unalloyed, complete devotion to the Supreme Lord. This was the Markandeya Muni can live longer. It says that even 2 days of Brahma, I mean, 1 day of Brahma means 1,000 yuga cycle. Even 2 days of Brahma, Markandeya Muni lives because of the mercy of this Naranarayana Rishi, the power. So wherever it is mentioned that, wherever the devotees worship the Supreme Lord, Naranarayana Rishi, they will please like anything. And we know that another time, the Indra is so much afraid of the penance and the tapas and the devotion of the Naranarayana Rishi. And the Indra bewildered and thought that, he would lose his position. He sent all the Apsaras, Gandharvas, and Kamadev. They all came before the Naranarayana Rishi and started to dance, create the music and all. So Naranarayana Rishi didn't even bewilder or agitate even a little bit. So then immediately Narayana Rishi just, just clap on his thigh and beat on his thigh. And from that thigh, there is a very celestial beauty is appeared before them. And it was none other than the Apsara. This was called Urvashi. And seeing Urvashi and seeing the potency and the power of everybody else kind of, shameful. And then they kind of, put down everything and they just calm and quiet. And Narayana Rishi started to speak to them that, that you just go. I am not a threat for you. I am just here worshipping the Supreme Lord. Said, this is a great lesson that we all can learn. We are in the midst of all these, opulence or whatever it is. But always that what we need to have is that to have the devotion to the Supreme Lord. So Narayana Rishi was, then that's why Urvashi, the name came Urvashi means because of the Uru means the thigh. The Urvashi came from the thigh of Narayana Rishi, and that's why she became the Urvashi. And so, like, there are so many situations, we know that there are so many, sometimes even Narayana Rishi takes the weapon, that the Sahasra Kavaja story and, how he, the sage Narayana Rishi killed. And that same Nara became Arjuna. Arjuna killed the Karna. Karna was the Sahasra Kavacha. So, like there are so many incidents there that how that supreme personality of Godhead manifested in this world. This was long time ago. That's that if you go to Badrinath, that there's a temple, and it is mentioned that there is a winter time. That's the time. It's a Deva, the period that's time completely closed. So that time, even the demigods come and worship sage Narayana, the Narayana Rishi. They worship. That time it doesn't open. It's completely closed by that time. So, likes that their devotees, that the same, the sage Narayana Rishi that manifested in Krishna and as in Arjuna. So it's very great to see that. And then this is also that manifested in the dynasty of Sambhu Manu as for the Dharma and the Murti as the sons of. So they are so powerful to, so many ways that even just remembering them and understanding them. So that's way that we also get great merit and benefits of eradicate all our sinful reactions, understanding who is the supreme personality of Godhead and how he is manifesting and how he is eradicating and how he is manifesting in this cosmic world as an illusory energy, and ultimately nothing but the Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, manifest in various forms. And then all we need to do is understanding and realizing and worship him all with best of our capacity, and always remember and worship because of the sage Narayana Rishi always did. That's why we pray that. Narayanam Namaskatyam Naman. So always that we pray to that Lord Narayana Rishi to protect and our devotion. So thank you so much. With this note, I would end here. Hare Krishna. So is there any questions, comments, so we can discuss in the Nityam Bhagavata Sevya group? And thank you so much. We'll stop here. Thank you, Madhuri Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Ramesh Prabhu. We would like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day and weekend ahead. A weekend, very auspicious weekend. Tomorrow is Ekadasi, minimally fasting from grains and beans and increasing our Krishna consciousness. There will be Ekadasi Kirtan from 10 to 12 in the temple. And there is also an Ekadasi buffet tomorrow in Govinda's. It's Bhaimi Ekadasi. Fasting till noon tomorrow for Lord Varhadev, whose appearance is on Sunday. Varhadvadasi is on Sunday. So this entire last 4 days, Sri Madhvacharya's disappearance yesterday, Ramanuja Acharya disappearance today, Ekadasi tomorrow, Varha Dwadasi on Monday, and then Nityananda Tradasi on Varal Dwadasi on Sunday and Nityendra Triyodashi on Monday. So, wonderful festive days to meditate and absorb their divine glories. We like to offer our praise to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Ram,
Rama,
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Hare, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ram,
Rama
Ram
Rama,
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ram,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Ram,
Rama,
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Ina Shingo, Jaina
Jai
Shingo,
Narasimha,
Jai
Jai
Jaina
Jai
Shingo,
Narasimha,
Praladesha, Jaya Padam, Kapadam, Lingam, Ugra Viram,
Ugraviram
Vishnu,
Ugraviram
Mahavishnu
Mahavishnu,
Mahavishnu
Charantam
Sarvatomukham,
Sarvatomukham
Narsimham Bhishram
Narsimham
Badram Nityam Nityam Namamyam.
Namamyam.
Nrsimha Bhagwan ki
Ki
jai,
Jai,
Prasad Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Let's offer our humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas.
Panchakalpatarubhasya kripa
Vaishnava
sindhu bhavecha
Patitanam
patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavyo
Vaishnavadebhyo
namo
Namah.
namah.
Vaishnavinda ki jai,
Ki
Jai
Jai,
Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Ki
jai,
Jai,
Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai,
Jai.
Gaur Premanande,
Hari
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 Bol.
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Thank you, Simeshwar.
Thank you,
Thank you
Prabhuji.
everybody. Hari Bol.
Hare
Hari
Krishna, Hare Bol.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, everyone. Hare Krishna.